This is episode 132 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Welcome to episode 132 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today I have Jacob Campagnaro on the show for the second time. Jacob was on the show on episode 2. He was my first guest and we talked about how he was doing private mortgage lending. Well, since then he's really built up his business as a realtor with a heavy focus on commercial real estate, which is basically anything that falls under the commercial umbrella with the bank. So that would be multifamily, 6 units or more, mixed use, industrial, retail, office space, all that stuff. So everything that's not your typical end user homes and things of that nature. So Jacob came on the show and we talked a lot about that. We started off the episode with a case study of his Airbnb rental, which he's generating some significant cash flow on. And it's a property that he bought at a great price and he's managed to turn it into a real cash flowing asset with over $50,000 a year in gross income and over $1,000 a month of cash flow. One of the things that I really liked about this episode is we actually got to do a deep dive on the commercial buying process. So we finished off the episode digging into what to expect and what not to expect when you start buying commercial, when you get away from the residential and you start buying into the multi-residential, 6 units or more, or the mixed use and the commercial, and some of the thought processes that need to happen, because it is a very different process with some very unique attributes that differ from what you have already seen if you've strictly been investing in residential properties. So I think there's a lot of value to be gleaned from this episode and I hope you enjoy it. If you're new to this podcast, as always, I recommend going right back to episode 1 and working your way all the way through so that you can get familiar with the concepts if you're not already an established real estate investor. A quick reminder that my cash flow spreadsheet is available through my website at andrew-hines.com if you'd like to follow along and crunch numbers with any of the episodes. And if you wouldn't mind, please just take a moment and rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts if you haven't already done so. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell and leave me a comment. Let me know what you think of the episode. Let Jacob know what you think of the episode, just so that we can help more people to find this content and help them in their real estate investing journey. Thanks so much for tuning in. Let's dive into episode 132 with Jacob Campagnaro. Hello and welcome to the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. I've got, for the second time, Jacob Campagnaro on the podcast. Jake, thanks for walking 25 feet to be on this podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Jake, sometimes you work out of this office. We're at the Pro Funds office right now. And it's been a while. So, I mean, not since I saw you, but since you were on the podcast. Last time we were talking just kind of about your private mortgage investing and using that to live the life you were kind of hoping for. And then now you've kind of got more active in real estate as a realtor and also as a investor. So figured we'd talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. And like I think I haven't thought of this until now, but just when you were saying that, I was kind of sitting there going, well, yeah, I guess the theme has kind of stayed the same about where I invest and why I invest. We can touch on my day job, essentially being a commercial realtor. But last time we spoke, it was investing to be able to travel and live off of those investments. And now it's my investments are giving people the opportunity to travel and come to some of my unique locations.
Oh yeah, because your Airbnb angle here.
That's it, right?
So, and the one that comes to mind is your cottage up in Oliphant.
Yeah. So, yeah, and it's neat because for me, it's I like to give people that experience, right? Like I want to take those experiences I had, and I want somebody to come to my cottage and fully enjoy it. And you're right on the beach, and and really come down and try to have those experiences that I was able to have, right? So I really like that kind of customer service.
Hospitality's fun.
Hospitality's
fun. I used to, what was I serving at weddings and I bartended at weddings when I was like 18 years old. That was so fun.
Yeah.
People having fun, right? And I think, people on vacation, they're generally, pretty adamant that they want to have a good time. And so I'd rather deal with those people than people who are angry and, just doing whatever. So
no, for sure. Like you get a good review, right? And that makes your whole day.
Well, and then the most important point for most investors is that if you're doing Airbnb, there's obviously potential to do a heck of a lot better than you would be doing with a monthly rental.
Yep.
Which we're going to get into just the details of this property. And I know you brought an Airstream, so we're going to talk about that and what the vision is for that, and then what else is on your radar. But then I also want to wrap up because I know you focus primarily with multifamily investors and larger multifamily. That's an interesting take for this podcast. Haven't really done that, in depth as an in-depth focus. So I think that'd be a good combo for us to get into. So first off, okay, so the cottage is in Oliphant. So for anyone not familiar with that, we're talking Lake Huron, just north of Sauble Beach area.
Yeah.
And so you're right across the street from the water.
Yeah, so we're situated right on the water. We have it's about a 60 frontage by probably about a 205 depth.
Oh yeah, so you haven't even seen the back of your property. It's forest.
It's most of it's marsh, but so nice big property right across the water there. And really just try to accentuate the fact that you are on the water. So was recently actually just up there for a little hobby, building the deck or redoing the deck.
Already? You just did that last year, wasn't it, Bill?
So we built the deck last year, and then I wanted to go up and finalize it because it wasn't.
Oh, there's a couple of things.
Wasn't perfect.
Yeah. A couple of things that stand out for that property is, of course, it's right across from the water. I think you bought it at the right time because you got in under $300,000, right, to buy it? Yeah.
So I was in 260.
And just describe it as when you bought it, because I never actually saw it when you bought it, but I saw it mid renovation, like totally gut.
So the story on this one was it was owned by one family for probably 100 years. Like I found articles on the place, and it since the beginning of that area, this one family has owned that cottage. And in the last probably 10 years, they stopped using it. It was, dilapidated. So when I purchased it, it was actually an off-market deal. The realtor called my mom actually. And then, she was like, well, I don't want it, but
Carmen's always looking for deals. So this wasn't her cup of tea, but
and she's like, hey, if you want it. And I went in there, and it was rough, right? Like I kind of bought it sight unseen. I did a drive-by, but the price just worked. It felt right. And
it's a small place though, right? Like, do you know the square footage?
It's 780 square feet.
And that's a touch bigger than when you bought it, right? Like it was like
we did an addition.
650 when you bought it. So really tiny little place, a 2-bed, and then you got your own living area and a really nice bathroom. Yeah.
So originally when I bought it, so it was 2-bedroom, bathroom, and then kind of galley kitchen in the place, right? And really not a very functional layout. To get to the back door, you had to go through the bathroom.
Yeah, that's a no-go.
The main door to get into the house was in the bathroom. So it was a really weird, kind of interesting layout. Roof was caved in. Anyway, so when I bought it, so I came in private money, right? I kind of did what I usually do, which is I don't want to call it a BRRRR, but it was, I don't want any of my own cash into the deal.
Okay.
Right. So we picked it up for 260. It appraised a bit higher than that. So right off the bat, we were ahead. So I was able to, between the cottage and one of my other income properties, I was able to actually get a private mortgage for about 120% loan to value.
Okay, yeah. This was, you were securing the condo you got, right?
The condo in Cmhc.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was able to use those two to come in with private money. Buy the thing with 120% loan to value.
And then you had enough money to renovate.
And I had enough money to renovate and do an interest reserve.
Okay, so basically nothing out of pocket, and that's where it helps when your mom's in the mortgage brokering business, and she's helped me that way as well. So those zero down strategies, actually, I think I've told this story. I got like $44 back on the one property I bought. No money in, so she secured 2 properties, and I got a check for $44. So that was cool.
That's a great scenario.
Yeah, I actually found the check because it went stale dated. I never cashed it, and I found it in a folder. But I'm like, oh, that's a good souvenir.
There you go.
But anyway, okay, so you're in for zero on that, and then when you were finished, when did you finish it? Was that in 2020?
So finished beginning of 2020.
Okay.
So like January 2020,
Right. Okay. Before all the crap happened. All right. So then you refinanced, I think, right away. You started that refinance process right away.
Yeah. So we renovated. So reno costs were $75,000.
Okay. So that included carrying as well, or was carrying on top of that?
No, that was pure reno. So carrying was on top of that.
So 70,000 you said?
75,000 reno.
Okay. And then, so you said 200 and how much? 65?
It was 260 purchase. Okay. And I believe I got, I want to say like 390, 360?
390.
360 is what I...
And value?
Yeah. No, is what I actually got the private money.
Oh, so they gave you that much money, so that would cover everything that and your interest.
And
okay,
my interest, yeah.
Okay, so what was your carrying? Do you figure like 30 grand?
Yeah, it was about 30 grand. So it was 8% plus 2% lender fee.
Okay, so that's if it was $260 to buy, $75,000 rent out, and $30,000 carrying. That means you're all in at about $365. Does that sound about right?
That's spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then what was the value you got at the end of that?
So value at the end was it came in at $450.
Okay.
And these are just spitball numbers. I can.
Oh no, I know, but that's all I ever do. We're just back of the envelope here. So at 80% on 450, you're a 360 mortgage, so you're in for about $5,000.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk our rents on the place. So obviously it's not as cut and dry as a monthly rental because you're primarily Airbnb-ing it, right?
Yeah.
So what's the average month look like, or the average? Yeah. Like, what's the easiest way to do this?
Well, so with this area and with this cottage in particular, there's a season.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't really go month by month, but rather season.
Okay.
Right. So summer months obviously are the high season, or the season that I'm going to be making most of my money in. So during the summer months, I rent for $275 to $300 weekly.
Oh, like a
nightly
night
during the week. Yeah. Okay. And on weekends, I go up to $350.
Okay, so if we want to make an average for like $280 or $290 on average?
I think I'm like $299 on average.
So $299 a night on average, and that's for 5 months of the year, right? So that's like May, June, July, August, and September?
That's 100% occupancy.
Like pretty well 100%?
I just checked today, actually. Yeah,
so
it's
you had
100%.
no vacancy?
I had, in June, I had 1 day.
Okay, so we're going to go, $299 times, I guess we'll say 30 days on average, times 5 months, and then we'll just say times 0.98. So pretty well fully occupied. So that's about $43,953 for those 5 months. And now what happens in the other?
That's pretty spot on.
Yeah. What happens to the other 5 or the other 7 months?
Yeah. So the other 7 months, coming into winter, what I'm going to call the slow season, that area, and it's very area dependent, right? And just bringing it back a little bit, why I invested in this area and not in, let's say, Blue Mountain or, Wasaga or something like that is number one, it was the right deal. Okay. And it was location. I wanted to be on the water. That's my parameter, right? Is it, or it has to be on the water, on a river, facing a mountain. Like there has to be a landmark there. Yeah. Right. Because then in that way, the cottage can be whatever you want.
Right.
Right. So if you're looking at the lake, you can have the 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 750 square foot cabin and rent it for $350. Right. You're paying for the water.
So location is making up for deficiency in layout.
And that's been kind of my strategy on it, is I'd rather go with a better location versus a grander house. Right. Okay. So, and that's just me, and everybody has their own kind of strategies.
No, I would prefer location too. I mean, provided that I don't need to have the best location, but as long as I have a location that's solid and always going to rent.
Yeah. Walking close to the water or on the water.
Walking distance is good.
Right. So and then the other reason is because I did heavily look or investigate Blue Mountain, Wasaga Beach, and other areas around, popular spots for all year round vacation properties. But Blue Mountain has very strict rules, right? There's actually a certain zoning you have to be in to have an Airbnb in Blue Mountain.
Okay.
And when you are in that zoning, you have to have a license to do so. It's like you have to renew it every year or 2 years or something like that. So they make it very difficult, and you have to either be grandfathered in or it has to be in this zoning. Yeah. And that was just something where I went, now I'm paying a premium for something that either I have to do it illegal, which I don't want to do, or I have to find a specific zoning and pay a huge premium for that. And Wasaga has pretty much the same scenario.
Yeah. And plus Oliphant's like the family area. Like we've been going up there forever. Yeah. I know you've been going up there longer than I have, but yeah, that's, it was kind of an easy decision in a way because the area, done a lot of stuff there already. So,
so that's, that's why I picked this area. Now, so in 2020, I rented it for the summer. That was pretty much my income, what you had there.
Yeah. Okay.
Pretty spot on. And then I actually did shut the cottage down for the winter. Okay, and that was because I didn't have an appropriate heating system. Now it wasn't originally a three season cottage. Okay. We insulated it to be a 4-season cottage,
Right.
but didn't have the correct heating system for it. So
Yeah, because you only had heaters in the bedroom, right?
we had baseboard heating in the bedroom.
Yeah.
Right. And then
They
the
get
original
a central fireplace now?
and there was the original heating was a wood fire stove. And so now what I've done, so this year I am going to keep it open during the winter. So it's a little, and this is only my second year running this cottage. So, not a huge track record on this one, but we're going to see. It's going to be an experiment this winter to see what happens. So I installed a ductless mini split system.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay.
Yeah. So electric forced air or whatever you want to call it. But it heats up to -35.
Yeah, those are the good ones. They cost a premium.
Yeah, it wasn't cheap, but I think I can, run it through the winter. So what we've been seeing is I know people in the area rent for about, if they want to do monthly rentals, they'll do $1,500 a month.
$1,500 a month for the summer. Okay.
For the winter.
Or for the winter. Yeah. So $1,500 a month for those 7 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's pretty, like if you just want to throw a number at it, that would be kind of standard.
Okay. So 1,500 times 7 months. Okay. So that's, okay. So if we add that to the 43,000, so we're just going to work through our gross rent. So that's about $54,000 a year.
Yep.
And okay, so roughly $4,500 a month on average. Now let's work through some of the other line items. So taxes, what are you roughly at there?
About $2,300.
Not bad. Okay, and then insurance for that?
$91 a month.
Equals 91. That's good price, but it is a small place. That's with full disclosure about the Airbnb.
That's full disclosure. Yeah. I made that evidently clear.
Okay. Now maintenance, and when I say this, it's normally I would go with like a 5%, but then you also have like toiletries and stuff that you have to restock and stuff. So maybe you put that in management. So maintenance wise, just 5%.
Yeah, maintenance is 5%, and that kind of chalks up to true maintenance, like painting. A guest breaks a plate. The toilet paper holder gets ripped off the wall. Little things like that. Because the way I've set it up is my cleaning fee, like Airbnb, or you always have these cleaning fees built in.
That covers the toiletries.
So I do a $300 cleaning fee. Okay, my cleaning charge per guest is about $250. So the cleaner comes in, charges me $250, and then I have extra $50 left over.
Oh, okay. So you charge it out at $300, but it costs you $250, and so the $250 does a complete turnover and restocking.
It does the cleaning and the turnover, and then the $50 will do the restocking for me.
Okay, so basically you have zero cost then on the restocking.
Yeah.
Okay, what are you paying for management, or are you paying any sort of fees or anything like that?
No, so I manage it all myself right now.
Okay.
Just the cleaner.
So just the cleaner, which is covered by the guests. So as far as utilities go, you just have electric.
I'm just electric there, yeah.
And what are you, like $1,500 a month or $100 a month on average, like $1,200 a year?
A little bit higher than that because my heating and my cooling is also electric.
Okay.
So I'm about like $240, $250
a month.
Yeah.
Okay, so 250 times 12. Okay, so you're about $3,000 a year on that, and then management we're going to leave at zero. Now, like any landscaping, like who's cutting the grass?
Yeah, I got a guy who comes in, so I got landscaping for $30 a cut. They do 3 cuts a month.
Yeah, times 3 for the 5 months of the year, and then in the winter the tenant takes care of the snow.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so $450 a year for landscaping. That's a good deal.
Yeah. You know what? Like the funny part is I didn't actually expect to come on the podcast. It was more of a short notice kind of thing, but I just went through all of these numbers 2 days ago. I just went and updated my P&L, my profit and loss. And so all these numbers are really fresh, but that's,
Well, I mean, we would know this stuff anyway though, right? We talk about this stuff fairly often too. This isn't the first time I've asked you these numbers either. No. But no, I know that we've dug into this a bit. So those are some pretty actually minimal numbers compared to your income. What have we missed anything, or is there anything else?
So I do a $50 Misc Fee, miscellaneous. You never really know what happens. A guest, knock on wood, this has never happened, but let's say a guest has a bad experience. You want to, oh, sorry, the place wasn't to your standard. Here's $50 back, or here's $100 back.
Right.
Leave me a good review, essentially. Right.
Gotcha.
So I like to just throw that in there as a little buffer.
Okay. Yeah, I usually just throw 500 in there. That's what I have in here for the year. 500 for the year.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's good. Now let's just punch in our numbers here for what you're in for. You're in for about well, you refied at 450, right? 450 value?
Yep.
Okay, so your cap rate, let's not jump the gun here. I'll calculate that in a second. So you did 80% financing, so that was 360 at what interest rate?
2%.
2 even?
But yeah, like 2.05 or something with Scotia.
Okay. So your cash flow on that is $1,360 a month on average.
Yep.
That's really sweet. Cap rate's just under 10% with the Airbnb. And if you were to go commercial with this, you'd have a really good debt coverage ratio, 2.7 to 1.
And mine's my kind of cash on cash return, or my ROI. That's the part that gets me really excited, because there's basically no cash into it.
Well, yeah, I was just saying this in the last podcast that, I mean, I get a smile on my face when I know even if it's small, like if my property's paying me, especially if I had nothing into it and I created a system that pays me, it just puts a smile on my face. That's kind of the way you want to do it. So in terms of overall return here, so if we figure 3% appreciation, obviously with our government printing money the way it is, it's going to go up more than that, I think. So that's $13,000 a year. And then if your pay down on an average year for the first 5 years is about $9,300 on your mortgage, and then your annual cash flow is almost $30,000, which is absolutely awesome. Okay, so looking at that, you're all in for, we said 5,000 on that. Let's see here. So you're all in for about 12,000 or so, including your like land transfer that you paid and your illegals. You're getting like a 420% return on investment.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the kind, those are the kind of numbers that actually make a difference in someone's life. Like that one property is a start to something a lot bigger, I'm assuming. So now I know that kind of inspired the purchase of the Airstream.
Yeah.
Which just tell me about it.
This is where it gets a little interesting. Yeah. So, I've been doing a lot of research into this. I am a really big fan of Airbnb investing. And it's not just the cash flow, although that's great. It's actually the satisfaction that I get from hosting a good stay, from a good review. Mm-hmm. So it's not for every investor, right? Because it is very hands-on. This is not a passive investment by any means. Mm-hmm. But if you get a good cleaner, and that's probably the most important part, is your cleaner, because they're gonna make sure everything's in check. Are any plates broken? Are the deck chairs in good shape? Or they're gonna text you right away and say, hey, yeah, place looks really good. Leave these guys a good review, right? So if you can get that set up, you're good to go there. But I want to scale this, right? I want to scale by at least 2 or 3 a year. And this isn't my only investments I'm doing, but it's something I am actively scaling right now. So this year, with just the way cottages have gone and rural property and all of that with appreciation and
Well, everything has, but cottages, I think last year was a big boom. It was a really good season for a lot of people because no one was traveling out of country. So they were doing a lot of cottages.
Yeah.
And if that continues, then that looks really good. The thing I really like about this particular cottage is you've got a buffer there. So you're basically, you got $2,300 of cash flow. So you could technically afford to rent it out for, about $2,000 or just over $2,000 a month. It's still cash flow. Yeah. And actually you'd be, then the tenant would be paying the utilities. So you could actually cash flow with a regular rental too. Yeah. So you got a really solid plan B on that, which I like. Yeah. Part of it getting in at the right time, and rents have changed and such, but
and that's it. And I'm always looking. Like I look at the market every day. I'm doing a deal for a client of mine right now, and it's actually, the numbers are going to work out very similar to this. Yeah. We're starting a bit higher. We're starting at about 450 purchase price, 475 purchase price, but there's a ton of work to do there. It's walking distance to the water. So it's a really good kind of layout, and we're going to try to mimic what I've done. Okay. And I'm doing this for him because he came to me, and he's just been looking at, multifam in Hamilton and flips, and he's looking at all different style of investment. I said, well, what do you want to do right now? He goes, I just want to put some money into something, just get an investment that will cash flow for me, that I can just relax and say, okay, I put my money to work this year. Yeah. Right. I'm not just sitting with 100 or, 200 in the account. worried about inflation or all that. So, so we found him this deal, and it's going to work out very similar. But, other than that, I've been looking. It's been a very tough market to buy cottage and properties to cash flow like this in. So
you can still find some land up there.
You can, and we can.
Yeah, we've been talking about it.
Yeah.
Do we want to build a team up in that area? I know you already have a partial team.
Yeah.
But everyone's busy, right? So this is where I know we've been talking prefab. Are there alternatives to building where you don't have to get framers, where you don't need a drywall crew, where you can kind of put some stuff together a little bit easier? Because I have trades that will travel, but if I have to bring drywall crew from London up there, that isn't as easy to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's and we've discussed it, and I know there's a whole bunch of options out there, right? Like people talk about it all the time. You go to YouTube, it's going to be a very prevalent search, which is going to be shipping container homes, log homes, prefab homes, right? There's a lot of different options there.
The trick is getting them to call you back.
That's it.
That's been my biggest thing. Anyone I've called so far, they don't know me from Adam. I guess I should throw the podcast link out there. Hey, check it out.
Well, that's it, right? So yeah. Anyway, so all of this kind of. And me watching some YouTube videos and on Pinterest, like I'm not, it's a little bit more of a hipster approach, or, whatever you want to call it. But I really fell in love with the style of like an Airstream trailer, right? And everybody's got that image of like, Arizona desert, you have an Airstream, it's all done up.
Yeah.
And there is if you go on Airbnb and you just search Airstream, they pop up.
Yeah,
they look really nice.
You're thinking just drop it. I think you got a spot where you can drop it and have services, and then you'll just be able to rent that out for a couple $100 a night.
And that's it. So the trailer itself, they're not cheap, right? Like I wanted an Airstream, a true Airstream, right? So they're not cheap. So I was about $21,000 into the Airstream to purchase.
Did you do anything to it?
Not yet. So I've purchased it. 21. It's totally livable. Everything works. It's really good condition. It's just totally original, 70s.
Okay.
So $21,000 into that. I was actually on a call this morning with a company out of Hamilton that focuses on restoring and upgrading vintage trailers.
Okay.
That's all they do. So, and I'm actually working with those guys, helping them find some land to purchase right now anyhow. But so we're going back and forth on quotes. I want to go high end with it. All right. I think I can make some serious money with the trailer, just looking at comparables. So I don't mind putting another 50 grand into renovations.
Yeah.
Right. And I know, that might sound crazy to some people, because it's not it's not real estate. It's rather,
But if it's income generating, then, and some people might rent it out on a monthly too. Like I haven't really looked into that, would people rent an Airstream on a monthly basis?
So there's one right now in Kawarthas. Okay. It's not totally done, but it's a nice trailer. It's on a lake. They're getting $350 a night on average.
$350 a night. See that
for a 2-bed.
So that's how I'd look at that. I'd try and, size up my risk is like, how long would it take to break even on the investment on the trailer? Yeah. And then the other part, like the land, that still holds its value. But exactly. You hope anyway.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And my goal with that is, okay, so yes, the initial investment into the trailer is a little bit, but we're going to put it on a piece of land and I'm going to be able to pay that land off or pay it down. Right. Yeah. And then move it to the next piece and pay it down, move it to the next piece and pay it down. And, we can achieve those 350 numbers, then it's a no brainer because essentially my investment will be, $70,000 in total.
Yeah.
Right. With no mortgage.
Yeah. So the good question is, what can that generate, right? Like if you're in for 70 on that, like even if we just forget about the land for a second, like say it has similar numbers to your cottage and say you are making 2,000 a month, how long does it, so it takes 30 months or 35 months to pay for itself. Yeah. So just short of 3 years. Yeah. And then it's paid back. Forgetting about taxes for a second and that stuff. So,
well, yeah. And there's kind of the other security I feel, the thing that makes me comfortable about it is, it's a little bit of fun for me with this one, right? Like this isn't going to be what I bank my whole investment career on is buying trailers and renting them, by no means. But let's say, stuff hits the fan and I want to get out. Well, I can hook it up to my truck and I can
And
be down
pull
to
it somewhere
Florida in
else.
2 days.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, that's kind of my get out of Dodge backup.
Trailers aren't a new thing, though, really. Like, I actually recently, when I was in Florida, I heard a guy talking about how he bought a trailer park, best investment he ever bought.
Yeah.
Like in a community, like the tenants, he said, were really good. He's like, he was like actually surprised. So even just trailer parks, if you had a nice trailer, you bring it into a trailer park. I mean, that's still a thing. People still do live in that year round.
Yeah.
So I just haven't really looked into it that deeply, but I mean, it sounds like you would have a pretty solid plan B with that asset itself. And then you still got the land, which you could do other things
so,
with.
So that's kind of more my, my hobby project, right? It's not,
So this one, do you have an angle on this one though for the land, don't you? Aren't you just going to be setting it on a piece of land that isn't yours?
the challenge with the Airstreams or any trailer is the zoning and the bylaws of where you can put it, where you can't put it, right? You can't really just buy a trailer, buy a piece of residential land and throw it on there. Like you can.
People will have them in their driveways.
People have them in their driveways, but it's different if it's a permanent structure there, right? There is some gray area, let's call it.
What if it's on wheels? It can move.
That's it, right? That's it. So for me, the family, I'm going to say, we purchased a resort, right? 36 cottages in total that we're currently renovating and working on. And there's some space, on the water there. Yeah. So that's where this trailer is going to live.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, and it's not like you're taking up like land that it wasn't going to be used for anything else. You just park it on that land. There are some services there, so somebody else could have parked a trailer there. So are you going to pay a little bit for the use of the services?
There's going to be a rental fee for that. Yeah.
But so that works out really well for you. So I don't know, what's a reasonable rental fee for that? Like a couple $100?
Yeah, like I'm going to, like the same way I start with all my Airbnb stuff is I do start lower, right? I give discounts for the first couple tenants. Right, come be the guinea pig.
Come rent out your trailer.
So come try it out. So it's going to be situated on the beach with a fire pit. I'm going to do a deck out front, some fairy lights and stuff, and it's going to be completely modernized on the inside. Right, so the outside looks totally retro.
Yeah,
inside it'll function just like the cottage does.
Oh, that part's amazing. Like people are just going to look at the water. They're not going to care. I'm with you there 100%. Like if you're on the lake water, you don't care. If you got like a 2-bedroom Airstream, like you're just going to be like, okay, well, we're on the beach and it looks really cool. No joke. I saw in Maui, I saw for it was like $295 a night. This was a couple of years ago. It'd be even higher now. A tent next to a porta potty.
Yeah.
For $295 a night. So,
location
location is the big thing. So no, because this is the family like sort of resort that I know your mom's kind of bought with. I don't know if anyone else is involved, but obviously she'll give you a discount on your rent. Do you figure she'll charge you a couple $100, or I don't even know what reasonable is to park a trailer?
Yeah, we're still negotiating that part.
Yeah,
so we haven't locked that down.
I'm sure
completely.
It won't be a tough negotiation. This
we'll see.
Family friendly deal.
Exactly. But if not this, like just as an example, so the piece of land that my client I spoke about earlier that we're buying right now, so that's actually a double lot he's purchasing.
Yeah, so you get some room there. You can do it too.
They've already done a gravel pad and a hookup.
Oh, nice.
For a trailer. So
just tying into their septic and then off their well, they've got the connection as well.
That's it. So now you have almost 2 rentals on one piece of land, right? So you can, even if you just bought the most plain Jane generic trailer, you could throw it up there for $60 a night, no problem.
I was thinking about this, and I'm just going to go ahead and think out loud here. But if I had like containers or even better Airstreams, that's like now you've got my brain churning here. Say I had to put a sewer connect.
Yep.
And I had to do a well and then electric, like somehow if I can get electric to it, like I'd almost be willing to just throw like 4 or 5 on it. If I had a big piece of land that could be away from the road, just throw it on the land without a permit and just see what happens. Worst case, take it somewhere else.
That's it, right? The best part is wheels, right? Hook it up to the truck and go.
Yeah, or if it's a container, you could just throw it on a truck and lift it onto a truck, take it to another site that it would be allowed. So. I think the Airstream actually works better for that. If you want to take that gamble, if you got a couple of those and you're in a decent location, let's just throw some trailers on there and see what happens. Yeah. Even if it's gray area, it kind of gives you a little bit of a get out of jail, close to free, not completely free.
No, and that that style is really in right now, anyhow, right? Like go to Pinterest, go to YouTube. Like I said, you're going to find tons of these Airstreams, tons of these trailers that are being remodeled, and people willing to pay big bucks for it. So.
So hypothetical, like say somewhere in Wyerton area or Oliphant or Sauble Beach or something. I don't know how close we could get to the water anymore. Like land isn't that close to the water for most cases.
Yep.
But say we could find something within 5-minute walk. We're purchasing that land for say 170 and then adding in a $70,000 investment in Airstream, or what would it take to get something really nice and marketable?
Yeah. So, we're not even talking hypothetical here because there is land for sale.
Yeah. Well,
like
I know.
A rock's throw to the water for 175, 150, 160.
Yeah.
Right. Buildable, zoned residential.
Yeah.
Right. So this is a real situation. I'm also, shameless plug here, I'm also listing a property on.
Oh yeah, right on the water.
On the water, 750.
Yeah.
On the water, and you get 66 water frontage by 300 depth.
Just room for a couple of Airstreams there potentially.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. So, but no, say you bought, like, I'm just thinking if I wanted to do an Airstream, 70,000, I could be all in, you think still?
So
could I still buy that, do you think?
You can buy them still. They're hard to come by, but you don't have to buy an Airstream. Right?
Okay,
There's
so
a lot of cool trailers out there. Like you can even buy something new if you want. You can buy a 27-foot new Airstream for probably 60 grand.
Okay, but then it just won't be decked out nicely.
It's just not going to be
like retro
it's
cool.
It's not going to be retro. It's not going to look like a modern house on the inside. It'll look like a trailer.
Right. So I guess the only issue here is not being able to finance it. Can you finance it, or you have to take the wheels off?
So out of the right off the factory lot, yeah, you can finance them. They offer financing.
So you can finance the actual trailer,
yes,
not the land. So you could get one mortgage on the land and a financing on the trailer separate. Yeah. Blending rate, you're like 6-7% or 5%. Like, what do you think? Land, you're going to be like 8%, maybe, depending on how you do it.
Not necessarily, but yeah.
Okay, so let's say you're in for 240 on that, and let's just say hypothetically you could do the same numbers you've done on your cottage. Taxes are going to be way less. You're going to be, because it's just land, so $500 a year.
Yeah.
Insurance, let's just say it's the same as what you just said. Maintenance, we'll say it's the same. Utilities, we'll say it's the same. Landscaping, call it the same. So in this case, though, you're in for 240, and your cap rate is like 19%. Yeah. So I mean, but now the real challenge is with the financing. Like, what are you really getting? Is the Airstream financed over 10 years? Probably. Yeah. So your average amortization on that loan is probably that, and let's just say you're averaging 5%. So your payment's relatively high. Now, I don't know if you're getting 80%. You're probably getting like 60% overall loan to value between the two. So you got to come in with a bit more. Like you'd have to come in with about, I guess almost 100 grand in that scenario between the land and the trailer. But you'd have $2,300 of cash flow yet again. Yeah. And your return on investment still looks quite good. If let's just see here. If you're in for 90, like 50% return on investment, still good.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I'm not, it's not I don't think that's the repeat strategy, right? That's not something that, I'm probably going to repeat unless I buy a trailer park.
Creative.
Yes.
I like creative. I hate competing with people. Yeah. I shouldn't say hate, but I would prefer, anytime I'm competing with people, I'm like, how do I get creative?
Well, that's exactly it, right? Yeah. Like I don't, there's nothing wrong with buying that multiplex, that duplex, that flip. Like those are all fantastic investments.
But a lot of people go after them. Which drives the numbers down. So if you can get creative and do something like that sounds like it's going to be pretty darn profitable for you. Yeah. Like I'm looking forward to watching it. Now, does it get a little hard to recreate? Potentially. Yep. But
yeah, and for me it was, I got the money from a refi. Yeah. Right. So I pulled it actually out of the cottage we were talking about. So I'm actually in the works of refining that right now.
Oh, okay. You're doing another refi.
Yeah, so that's where all the money from the trailer is going to go from.
Now your cottage isn't worth $450 anymore. Now it's like $650 or
it's
something.
It's about $650. Yeah.
Yeah. There's the beautiful part of real estate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's, so again, I'm going to try to be, no cash out of my pocket. Like the trailer wouldn't have made sense for me if I had to start
go all
forking
cash.
It out cash. Yeah. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, I think it's going to work out really well if all market parameters stay the same or continue to improve as they are. But it could be really awesome.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like I'm not a doom and gloomer. I believe the market's going in a good positive way. And everybody has their own opinion on that right now, right? So
None of us know.
None of us know.
If we're going to be honest, like we just don't know. So because I don't know, I just like to cover my bases within plan A, B, and C. Like,
and that's it, right? So with the trailer, my thoughts were, plan A is obviously rent it, pay it off, own a cool, 1960s trailer, and eventually go to the plan of paying off land or just putting it on a piece of land to have some income. But plan B there really was, okay, so inflation happens or interest rates go up. Well, I'm still going to own my trailer.
Yeah, it's a hard asset. It's a tangible asset. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like, so anyways, that's kind of my plan A, B, and C there is the fact that I really can just hook it up to my car and
you could take it to a year-round trailer park and rent it out if you really wanted to.
And that's it. Yeah.
There is an alternative. You could sell it. I mean, in terms of affordable housing, I'm not talking about government subsidized, but I mean, just like a very economical type of housing, I think trailers qualify.
Yeah. No, it's neat. So I'll keep you updated on how that one goes. And when it's finished up, you can be my first guest if you want.
Wonderful. I'll definitely pop by. Okay, so I wanted to switch gears because you do a lot of commercial, larger deals, actually. I think you're into the, occasionally 10 million, correct me if I'm wrong, plus type of deals that you're doing and you're selling. So I was wondering if you could just maybe, we'll kind of walk through the basics, do's and don'ts. Well, first off, let's just start with the multifamily market / commercial. Are you doing like commercial with actual like storefront and commercial use, or is it just multifamily?
Yeah, so I my team and myself, we focus on commercial investment real estate. Okay, so investment's kind of the key there, right? I have a team of 5 awesome realtors, right? And we focus in the West End here. So Mississauga, Oakville, Burlington, Hamilton, St. Catharines, Niagara, all the way out there, and pockets where we feel is a smart area to invest. We're a branch of a bigger team, which has 50, 60 agents now, I think, that cover all of the GTA and the surrounding, right? Okay. So that's what my personal team works on, is investment real estate. So we do the duplexes, we do the triplexes. But what really excites me and what I'm focusing on is, commercial investment real estate. So on the residential side, anything, 6 doors plus.
Yeah.
And on the commercial side, mixed use, plazas, industrial, right? If it makes sense as an investment, we're there.
Any industrial storage?
One actually popped up.
Warehousing and
one actually popped up today. Yeah, in Oakville.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you should get me the details on that.
So we're looking into it right now for a couple clients. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard good things.
Yeah.
There's really high rent rates for those, but
amazing.
I've heard they're getting more expensive too.
That's it, right? The caps have really compressed there.
Yeah. Okay, so you're into obviously a lot of stuff. I know you've been selling some larger multifamilies lately. What I've noticed is there definitely are people on the list, the audience of this podcast, that are thinking about it, have only done residential. Mm-hmm. So off the top of your head, what are some of the things people should expect if they're thinking about going into multi-residential real estate? And well, maybe we'll just start with that. Yeah. And then, what shouldn't they expect?
Yeah, for sure. So, and outside of this podcast, we put on a show once a month as well on Saturday morning, where myself and my senior partner and a few other realtors pop on, and we actually answer. It's like a Q&A session for multifam. So I can give you a link. You can put it in the show notes.
Now that's a new show, right? Yeah. So this is a new show. Have you already done your first episode?
We've done a few episodes of that one.
Okay.
Yep. So just in case we don't cover what anybody or someone wants to hear today, we can always reach out to me and we can talk about it there as well.
We'll put your contact details so they can just fire you a link and then ask you the questions. So,
but to answer your question, so big thing is there's some misunderstanding and there's some misinformation in the investment world about commercial real estate, and so if I have a wide audience, such as you, I want to get those kind of out of the way.
When you're saying commercial, you're talking multifamily.
Multifamily.
Okay.
Commercial real estate.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So the reason for everyone listening and watching, the reason it's called called commercial is financed by the commercial side, and in the real estate board, it's also on the commercial side, even though it is just exclusively residential. But then there's also under that umbrella mixed use, which is commercial and multi-res. Yeah. Like a store with apartments over top, and then exclusively commercial and industrial. Those all fall under that commercial umbrella. Mm-hmm. Okay. So now that we've cleared that up, continue on.
Thank you. Yeah. So one of the big things I get for newer investors or investors that want to branch into the commercial world, and that's really what my team helps with and specializes with. So we'll take somebody who has a couple duplexes, a condo downtown Toronto, and we'll break through into that commercial world, right? And sometimes it sounds like a daunting task or whatnot, but that's really what we help with. And so a big thing that, right off the bat, when clients call me up and they say, okay, yeah, so, we want to buy commercial real estate. I'm like, great. And I'm like, why? What's the reason behind that? And, and they're like, well, we don't have to qualify personally. It's based on the property. I just lost my job, we're in a bad situation, so we want to buy commercial. So that's just something I hear a lot. And I want to address that and say, yes, with commercial real estate, the bank looks at the property itself to perform rather than qualifying the purchaser, but they still do look at you, right? They still do look at your credit. You need to have income.
You can't be unemployed.
You're going to be personally guaranteeing that anyhow. So, and that's just a call I get very frequently.
So they want to buy commercial because they've heard that it's not going to qualify based on their income.
Yeah, exactly.
Which that's actually a huge benefit. It is if you're not meeting the ratios. But one thing, having gone through this process, and I've even helped people get financing back when I was really focused on, being a mortgage broker, is they still want to, like you said, they still want to see the income. They want to most importantly see that you don't depend on those buildings to live.
Yes.
They want to see that you don't need to leech off the cash flow of that building in order to get by.
Exactly.
So if you've got a job that, pays you $60,000 a year and they can see your mortgage isn't that much and it looks like you can live on that, then they're okay. Mm-hmm. But it's more than that too, right? They want to see track record. Are you a competent manager?
Yeah.
Are you an asset manager? You can hire a property manager, but they still want to see that you have ability to discern.
Yeah, pay your bills.
Yeah, pay your bills, discern.
Good credit.
Yeah, make sure that thing doesn't burn to the ground.
Exactly.
It has proper insurance. All those things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that is the biggest benefit of commercial, right? So a lot of
scalability.
You're saying scalability.
Well, not being capped, right? Like a lot of these res buyers, which that's where most people start buying residential real estate.
Yep.
Most banks are saying five properties with us, and then you're done, or 10 properties max, or 10 properties with us. And then some banks, it's like once you've reached 3 properties, you just won't qualify anymore based on the way they treat the ratios.
And that's where I kind of started, and where I found my niche was exactly that. So I marketed to people who were maxed on their personal qualification for residential mortgages.
Yeah.
Right. So I was marketing towards those people, right? Saying, I can help you. There is other options here, right? We can go into the commercial world. Some people didn't even know the difference, right?
Yeah.
Or some people hear commercial and think industrial plaza. Business park, right?
Yeah,
and they're like,
commercial
like, what do you
plaza.
mean? And like, that's huge. I can't do that, right? I'm like, no, like we can get you a $200,000, residential, commercial, little mixed use thing, and still qualify under commercial.
Okay.
Right. So there's a lot of options with that. And the bank, what the bank is looking at is they're looking at the building. They're lending to the building. They're not lending to Andrew. They're not lending to Jacob. They're lending to the building. So they want to see that, okay, say a tenant leaves, 2 tenant leaves, 3 tenant leaves the building. Is that building still going to be able to pay the mortgage? Can we still get our money at the end of the day?
If they have to repossess it, can the building kind of run itself? Because or at least support itself with its income.
Exactly. Yeah. So sourcing deals. Okay, that's the next challenge, right?
Right, because that's all well and good. We can say the benefits, but what a bank is going to use, and anyone can grab the cash flow sheet off my website to calculate your DCR. But most banks are going to want a 1.2 to 1 debt coverage ratio.
Exactly.
Which if you don't meet it, like you plug all your numbers in and you do the 75% mortgage, and you're like, oh, my ratio is 0.9 to 1. What does that mean? Well, that means you have to keep reducing your loan to value until it's 1.2. Yeah. So what happens for a lot of people is instead of getting the 75%, they can only qualify for the 50% based on market rates right now, because things are crazy. So this is what I was getting at when I asked, what shouldn't people expect? Mm-hmm. You tell me, like, is it reasonable? Like, can I go out and find a 12-plex tomorrow? What am I going to pay per unit? Is there a strategy for me to cash flow? Yeah,
there definitely is a strategy. And it's dependent on where you want to look, how you want to purchase, and how you want to exit. Right. So what we like to do, so say you come in and you're, a new buyer and you say, I want a cash flow commercial building. Well, I'm going to sit down and find out about your life. I'm not just going to say how much do you have in the bank account and, where do you want to buy?
Yeah.
Those are the simple questions, but I want to know, hey, how busy are you? A doctor? Are you
can you BRRRR it, or
can you BRRRR it? Are you home all day doing nothing?
Or
right?
do you
or
need
are
to
you
hire somebody?
Or are you 9 to 9?
Well, so you're what you're kind of getting at is there's two different types of buyers. I guess that might be an oversimplification, but let's just say for discussion purposes, there's two types. There's the type that's willing to work it and has the time and they're in this business. And then there's the other type that they're a professional and have no time, but they have the money to invest in that type of an asset.
Exactly.
And those type, they're not going to buy the fixer-upper. But are you not, if you want to buy something that's completely done, which seems to be the problem. In my mind, you had to buy, crappy and fix it to get any sort of decent return. But if you want to buy something done, aren't you like pretty much at a 4% cap rate nowadays? Like in these like Southwestern Ontario like markets.
Okay, that's what I was going to address.
I'm not saying if you go to North Bay, you can get better deals.
And we are doing a lot of that. Right. So the biggest fear of people saying, well, I don't want to go north is because they don't have management, they don't have construction or contractors up there. But over the last year, 2 years, that's what I've tasked half my team with doing is source those people, go drive up there. Right. And really do that. So we actually just put a deal together in Blind River.
Where is that? Near North Bay? Yeah.
So it's actually in between Sault Ste. Marie and Sudbury.
Okay.
Right. So right in between. And again, that was kind of the big concern is, well, where's the property? It's a very small town, but it just so happens that we've made those connections now up there, and we had a property manager, we had the team to be able to manage it. So we were setting this up, I don't want to say hands off, but we were setting it up to be a very, or close to hands off investment.
What was that? How many? It was multifamily?
52 units.
52 units?
Yep.
What price per door approximately?
85.
Right. Yeah, compared to like Hamilton, now you're what, like $250 a door?
Yeah.
And now rent wise in Hamilton on your average door, you can get what, like $1,700, $1,800, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I'm really not completely confident in that number. I know it's in that ballpark. But.
Yeah, like again, and every building, every location is going to be a little different.
That's a very gross simplification again.
You're looking at kind of your typical purpose-built brick building, it's livable but not completely upgraded. Yeah, you're getting, $1,450, $1,500 for a 2-bed.
Okay.
And let's call it $1,200 for a 1.
Okay. But unless you're further south towards the mountain, I know the prices are going up.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And if you're a high-end product, you're much higher than that, right? You can get into the 2000s.
Exactly. Okay. So then if we go to Blind River, how does that compare? Like what kind of rents there?
So with Blind River, we actually did market rent comps for the sale, and we were looking at what we could do there. So again, let's just assume you're not going luxury product, but rather just, okay, let's make it livable, let's clean it up. We were getting anywhere from about $650 to about $1,000.
$650 to $1,000. So the rents are about half of what they are in Hamilton. Yep. But you're paying like a third. Exactly. To get the so the numbers are working out more beneficially. Is there some upward mobility there on the rents?
There is, right? And we're this building in particular was actually really under rented, so it was a BRRRR starting at $85 a door, right? Yeah. Plus there was some incentives, there was a vendor take back and things like that. So these opportunities, these cash flowing opportunities are out there, and it's about patience, and knowing where to look.
Okay, well, what about like BRRRR model investments in areas out, towards Niagara? Can you still find stuff out that way? And
yes, you can. Yeah. Like there's always going to be the diamond in the rough, right? The deal that isn't on MLS.
But they're not a lot on MLS, right?
They're not.
Anything on MLS is like snapped up, gone most of the time, right? I don't want to generalize, but oftentimes that's the case.
Yeah. So with MLS, right? There's kind of you see kind of two things. It's either it's on for
a really long time.
It's on for 200 days or it's on for 10 days.
Yeah, and that would just be maybe somebody fishing for, a really high price, or the property is really bad if it's sitting.
And hey, like, just saying that, some of great deals we've done have been done on MLS with a product that's been sitting for 200 something days. And it's just everyone, we came in with the offer that we thought would work.
Yeah.
And who knew they took it, right? Like,
Okay.
no,
People get worn down too.
they do. It's deal fatigue, right? Like, I don't know if you ever talked about the Edinburgh property.
Yeah,
I think Jordan
don't know.
came on
Yeah.
and you guys talked about it.
Yeah, we talked about when Jordan was on. Yeah,
So I don't know what episode that was, but that was one of them where that was on the market for
a really long time. Right?
For
They wanted like 1.7, right?
They wanted 1.5.
1.5. Okay.
1.5. It was on for like 200 days. Then they dropped it to 1.4.
Okay.
And we came in and we're like, yeah, we'll give you $1.05 million.
Yeah. So
Right?
you got it for $1.05 million.
And we're like, but we're serious. We're going to take it. Here you go. Gave them
Yeah.
good terms, but gave them the price that worked for us.
Yeah, and that actually happened in a smaller scale for me. This was going way back. But one of the earlier properties I ended up selling, it had been on the market for like 200 days or almost a year at 139.
Yep.
And I got the guy like the day he dropped it to 119, hit him with 105. He's like, oh, no way, like 110. So, but did a conditional. And then go through and, obviously like found some stuff to justify it. So we're like, hey, we'll firm up now, but these specific things will cost us this much to fix. And he's like, okay, whatever. And
So you're back at your 105 then?
Got the 105. So different market then. But it's actually insane to even say I got a single detached house in London for 105.
Yeah.
It's a good story.
I love those deals, right?
That house now is probably worth, after we were done with it, probably in almost 450 now or 500.
That's it, right? Like, don't get worn down looking in the market. Right. That's the first thing, if you come into my office, the first thing we're going to talk about is your expectations. Right. And it's, I know you have cash in the account, right?
Yeah.
But it's be patient with me.
Yeah.
And we will find you something good.
Yeah. You got to find something that actually fits, right? If you've got cash and, and you have absolutely no time, you might actually have to wait a little bit. And yeah, that's costing you money because your money is losing value, but it's better than buying the wrong property, I would say.
Yeah. Well, because when I invest with my clients and I want the A, B, and C plans, just like you do.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm if I wouldn't buy it, I'm not going to sell it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. Or I'm not going to buy it
yeah.
for a client of mine. So I always want an A, B, and C. And if I can't prove an A, B, and C to myself, it's just not the right one. Right. I'm gonna say, let's move on. Let's keep looking. Right. And it's and that's important with the duplex, triplex world. That's important with the commercial world.
But should people be planning on that? Like, I mean, if you're buying a 50 unit building, how often are you expecting that person to be going there? I mean, I guess initially, like anything, I would be up there quite a bit, just making sure things were going all right to start, and then I would distance myself.
Your transitional period.
Yeah, the
right?
transitional.
You're always, and I recommend that. I say, hey, you should be down there as much as possible during that first, let's call it, few months, and then the first year, I want you down there at least once a month. Just having a look, making sure it's running smoothly. Yes, we can vouch for the property management companies we set you up with, but we want you down there looking at the property too.
Yeah,
so.
And I would say, I mean, no matter how hard we try or hope so, and anytime I give a referral, I say, I've had a good experience here.
Yeah.
I can't guarantee you will, and maybe because I think something's good, maybe you think that's complete crap.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
So I always put that qualifier on it.
Yeah. So we don't want to send people too far. Yeah. Unless they're prepared and ready for it. Yeah. Right. But if you want to go Northern Ontario, there's some serious deals up there right now.
There are. And there's a lot of guys flocking up there. But I mean, it takes time. A couple of years for Windsor to kind of go from being a really awesome opportunity to not being, such an opportunity. The same thing's going to happen up there. Their values have already skyrocketed compared to what they were, but they're still so much lower than here. Arguably under the cost of replacement in a lot of those markets, which is a big thing for me. If I can buy under the cost of replacement and I know that there's a diverse, stable economy, I'm interested. Yeah. Because the infrastructure's there, sewers, sanitary, you've got all your utility connections. That stuff costs a lot of money to put in. Cities aren't just going to walk away from that. So people will stay just because they need a place to live. It's expensive down here. They say, we'll move north if you don't mind the cold.
Yeah. And even, again, within the BRRRR strategy or the long-term hold strategy, there's also your exit plan, right? So so we're buying up north because we know it's going to keep climbing up there for the next, 5 years and maybe plateau at some point. Again, no crystal ball, but we can kind of estimate what's going to happen. So if we, why don't we get you in there, buy that 52 unit building, turn a few units over, and in 3 years or 2 years, let's sit back and reassess. And hey, maybe at that time it makes sense. Let's either refi or sell, and let's go back into that Hamilton market and now pick you up that one that 2 years ago was unattainable.
Oh, you're just saying down payment size.
Yeah, everything,
okay.
right? And so
Can you get a bit better deal if you can buy higher price point? Like are the
believe
larger
you
ones
can.
going a little bit better cap rates for the buyer?
yes.
Yeah.
And it's just less competition.
Yeah, because less people can
Right?
afford to buy it.
When you get into 10 million, the crowd kind of thins out.
Yeah, there's very few
you
people
see
who
the
can buy
same
it.
Bob
Yeah.
and Toms, come around every once in a while. So most definitely, right? And even coming into the commercial world.
Okay, so a couple of quick things just about differentiating factors. What have you seen working for people optimizing their cash flow? Is there any like tricks or obvious things that people, even not so obvious things that people should do to optimize cash flow with their multifams?
Yeah. So, okay, obvious is increase rents,
Yeah.
right? And
Which
that's
is done by making your place nicer, the BRRRR type stuff.
the,
Okay.
the BRRRR, right? And the $1 million question is, okay, how do we turn over tenants? And
Well, I've also heard though, even just like making your lawn and common areas much nicer attracts better people.
And that's what I was going to get to. So the obvious is increase rents. Okay. The not so obvious or the ways that I really, tell my clients about, and when we're breaking down a pro forma, yes, obviously there's the hard numbers, but there's also sub-metering.
Sub-meters?
Like
Okay.
I know some bigger investors that I work with, and they just went through, and it was a big investment, but they sub-metered water for every single building they owned.
Yeah, and I actually just got set up with a sub-meter for my my London duplex, and that's the one where I couldn't get separate meters.
Yep.
And it's online read, so it's on Wi-Fi. And the company I bought the sub-meter from, they'll actually do the billing. They will actually bill back the tenants for the amount if I want them to, but it's a $100 flat fee, and it doesn't make sense for me to do that right now. But for a larger building,
Exactly. You get
There you
52 units.
now all of a sudden, 52 bills, you don't want to be doing that. Now you can get them, they'll calculate it, they'll bill it back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this guy had every bill coming to him, the owner of this building, of the 52 unit. And I spent a very long night with my assistant and I. We went through 52 units, 12 bills each, trying to actually get the real numbers for this.
To confirm the numbers? Oh,
yeah,
man.
so even just organization, I love organization, and that's, but yeah, little things like that. Like you said, landscaping, plant some flowers out front.
Yeah,
right?
make it look nice.
Make it a nice building. You can have a couple worse off units in a really nice building and still attract better tenants. But it's when you let the common areas get dingy, when you let the exterior, get run down, is when you're gonna find it hard to get those higher rents just on natural turnover.
So it's not just about turning over the units. Another thing that I know, I've got this from you, and of course, obviously, I've heard this back in the day as well. But the Cmhc strategy, where you go in, you buy it with conventional financing or with private financing, and then spend a year getting, realistically, 11 months, 10 months to a year, getting Cmhc financing, which allows you to, I think you can get amortizations even up to 50 years. 40
45 is
sure.
the best I've seen.
Okay, so 45.
They may claim 50. I haven't seen it, right? And
Right, because they would
quite a
have
few.
to show useful life of the building, at least that. So sometimes the appraiser won't say that it's good for that, so they won't do it.
Exactly.
But now all of a sudden, though, you're getting better interest rates. So you're getting down into the low twos with a 45-year AM
sub-twos,
or
right.
a 40-year AM. Now all of a sudden, a building that didn't make sense, didn't cash flow, does.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing, especially if you can buy bigger stuff, because it's worth the hassle, the headache of going through with CMHC, which is just a tedious process.
Well, that's a lot of what a lot of the big guys are doing, right? The guys that are buying 200 doors a year, 300 doors a year, that's exactly the strategy. Is let's get in, let's give them the terms they want to get the price we want.
Yeah.
Right. So on the purchase, we don't need 45, 60-day due diligence to try to go through conventional financing.
Yeah.
Right. Let's not bother with that. Let's give them the quick closing. Let's get the DD terms down and get the price we want off the bat. Once it's secured, we can close with private. We can close with a bridge. Right. There's options here.
Yeah.
And at that point, like you said, then we sit back and go, okay.
But when you say private or a bridge, you just mean some sort of private financing temporarily.
Yeah. There's also there's other banks that will do bridges for that.
But
right?
what's the difference? You're just saying like a short-term conventional loan?
Yeah, a short-term conventional with the bank you're going to go do CMHC with.
Oh, okay.
You know what I
So
mean?
they understand you're going to apply for CMHC, but they'll let you. Okay.
Yeah.
So they will in the bank differentiate that.
Yes, and different banks have different terms.
Yeah.
I don't want to throw names out because I don't know if their policies have changed, but I know we have done it with a few of the bigger CMHC lenders, and so we've done the bridge on the purchase for a year and a half, and then that rolls into the CMHC that they're already working on.
Okay,
right?
That's really interesting. So that's something I got to do a little bit of digging on and see how that works. Some other things that I think we should just make sure is on the record here. So when you're buying commercially, like there are people that try and get or conventionally have gotten 60 days for a financing condition because it legit takes that long to get your approval. So your 10 business day thing, that ain't going to work unless you go private. So this is the thing in this market, a lot of sellers aren't going to want to sign that. They're going to say, well, there's demand everywhere for this product. I don't need to give you 60 days. Yeah. So this is where people are going to now either go private or take the risk, right? Something like, obviously we can't recommend. People do, desperate times sometimes in a market. For me, my strategy would be go in private and then work really aggressively on a refinance. Yeah. Just because otherwise, like you're going to miss out. I personally think.
Yeah. And again, just I also want to throw out there that, you want to make sure the building you're buying is a CMHC financeable or CMHC
so
insured.
You still have to
building.
do your due diligence. Like
yes.
You can still do it. Like what's reasonable now? Like if you wanted to buy like a 8-unit at $250 a door, like how long can you tie that up? You have to go firm to get it because there's a lot of buyers in that pool.
It depends where you're buying, right? Like Hamilton, we're seeing very little conditions. 10 days firm. Like we sold one last.
So people are still getting some conditions through, like
very,
short conditions.
Very limited, yeah.
Yeah, because you're gonna want to get an engineer in there. You're gonna want to make sure that the environmental checks out. There's no environmental concerns. Structural things like. If you had a good team, you can fix them. But you're going to want to make sure there's no contaminants. That's probably the biggest thing. Yeah. And, no one was murdered there. Things like
Stigma,
that.
Yeah. Well, and a nice strategy, we use is we'll do your short conditions, right? So we'll do the 10 days, 15 days. Yeah. But it starts once you give us the DD items, the due diligence items. Okay. So like you're saying, your buyer tells you what they need. Our 10-day due diligence starts once I get 12 months tax or, a year tax, 12 months water, 12 months gas.
Okay. So you outline what the items are and then, so the condition period doesn't start until they give it to you.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because, what's the incentive for them to supply us quickly, right? We could be 10 days into a 15-day due diligence cycle and the seller's still scrambling to get the documents together.
So to clarify this for anyone not following, so Jake's saying, well, if we're buying it, we're going to put conditions that, we have 15 days to review tax bills and utility bills, but the seller might not actually give it to you until 15 days in, and then you don't have any time and your conditions up. So put the onus on the seller by saying we'll start the clock when you actually give us those documents.
Yeah, just little things like that, right? Like you can structure it to be competitive in this market. But you do, in the big stuff, like we're talking, 10 mil, 11 mil, 13 mil, what sky's the limit. Yes, some deals are going to have that 60 business
those
day
are
due
more
diligence,
likely to get
right?
those conditions because, like you said, the pool's a lot smaller. Anybody coming into that is usually not buying cash. It's who are you competing with? And it's all supply and demand at the end of the day. So if there's a bunch of people going after it, it's almost like your strategy needs to change.
That's it.
Or you go into a different market where there aren't that many people going after it.
And that's the biggest thing, right? And whether you're looking at commercial, you're looking at residential, the basics will make sure happens, right? You're gonna make sure that the debt coverage ratio is 1.2.
Yeah.
Right. Or we'll explain.
Or you can come in with the difference.
You need a bigger down payment. You need the cash to do so. But it's the how do you even get your foot in the door in this type of market? Yeah. And that's the thing where you need to get a little bit creative with how you do things. Yeah. And that's where the strategy really takes place.
Okay. Anything else that we didn't cover? I was going to say lawyers expect to pay more. There's going to be more lawyers too, especially if you go with bank financing. The bank gets its own lawyer. You don't share that lawyer, but you're paying for it.
But you're paying legal.
Yeah, you're paying for
it. I guess just to kind of cover expenses, right? Yeah. So the expenses off the bat. So, you're going to come in with your deposit. Okay. That's given, right? There's a deposit.
You got to put a deposit, but then you're going to also have to pay, your appraisal is going to be more if you're getting an appraisal up front.
Yeah. So a commercial appraisal, and it depends who you use, but, just as a case study on a building we're doing right now. So a commercial appraisal is $2,500. Yeah. Okay. So right off the bat, that was the first thing we did.
Yeah.
Okay. Commercial appraisal, because we need it. You're not going anywhere without it. And then because of the type of building and where it's located, we needed to do a phase 1 environmental.
And so the buyer's doing that.
Yep, $3,500.
Yeah, right. Those get expensive and they can take time.
They take up to 30 days, yeah. Building condition analysis.
So not just a
structural
engineer,
but it's a structural engineer that's going to come through the building.
And the bank wants that too,
and
right?
Sometimes they do. Yeah. I really like that. Like
just for your own peace of mind.
Something, do the appraisal and the building condition if you don't need to do the environmental, right? But the bank pretty much dictates what they want to see.
Yeah,
And
so
those are the
that's
top
actually
three.
the nice thing is like you can kind of use what the bank asks for as a bit of a guide to like, hey, if the bank's asking for this, I should probably be asking for it.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, the bank's not going to invest or put their money into something that's going to fail.
Yeah.
Right. So that's another nice thing about it is that, you know, they're doing the due diligence for you essentially.
Yeah.
Right. Because they're going to say, well, we need to see all the tax bills, everything. Right. Like the same thing you want to see, the bank wants to see.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, it's so that's obviously the good part of that. But I mean, for somebody who's just getting started, you know, if they have to go the private route, then they really got to do their due diligence and know what the bank is asking for. But I mean, of course, you've dealt with that, so you can, with your clients, you obviously show them, hey, these are the typical things we see, and then
Yeah, it's just experience with everything, right? You want the more deals you do, the more comfortable you're going to get with going. Yeah. You know, going firm or going very little conditions and whatnot. And
yeah, you shouldn't go firm unless you're very confident.
No,
in what
I
you're
would
doing.
never. You know, I would never recommend it unless it's a slam dunk deal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, unless you have contingencies, right? To me, it always comes back to what are my contingencies? Because I always, you know, generally we love our plan A.
Yep.
If you don't, why are you doing the deal?
Exactly.
But it's what's your plan B and C?
Yeah.
So that's the big difference, right? We can get all up on it about, you know, hey, this Airbnb strategy works great, but what's plan B and C?
Yeah. Well, yeah, like, you know, that cottage we talked about originally, the Airbnb. I went firm on that. Yeah. Right. 260 firm.
It was a great price.
And because I was like, okay, so what could be wrong? Okay, septic tank.
Yeah, you can fix that.
I know what the cost of a septic tank is. Yeah. The water is not potable. Okay, so we got to do a filtration system, or we got to dig a well. Right. So they're like, just because I've seen it before, I've done it before, I knew, you know, what worst case scenario could be, and it still fit within my budget.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Knock the thing down and putting shipping container there. Like.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, so there were some alternatives, and like that price point was kind of a no-brainer. It's a little bit different now. It's tougher to get things in that price point, but I'm sure in 2 more years we'll be saying the same thing.
Exactly.
So, all right, Jake, where do people reach you if they want to connect or just follow you?
Yeah, so you can. I have a personal mailing list, okay, which is called the REC Commercial Insider.
Okay.
Okay.
And I'll put the link to that in
the
description.
You can put the link in the, in the show notes. Yeah. Otherwise, you can send an email to jacob@reccanada.com.
Isn't it Jacob C?
Both work.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So Jacob C or Jacob@reccanada.com.
Yeah, okay. I'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can go onto our website as well, which is just reccanada.com. And you can see everything there as well.
Perfect. Okay. And then any closing words of wisdom for people thinking about taking that plunge into multifamily or their Airbnb or whatever?
Listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
Shameless plug, but it's true. Like a lot of people that come and talk to me, you know, whether they're ready, you know, a lot of people just call and say, hey, I'm not ready yet, but you know, where do we start? And I'll be like, hey, go listen to podcasts.
Yeah, actually, that's a good question. So you're going to have some content. I think the biggest thing for me, like even with my like coaching students or whatever, when I have the ability to take them on, I'm always like, have you listened to like the first 20 episodes of my podcast? Because we shouldn't waste that time. Like you should make sure you've listened to that so we can make the most out of the time. Yeah. Like is there a resource they can review if they're interested in calling you to talk about multifamily that they can kind of brush up first?
Yeah. So a resource we have and the team has is the REC Experience podcast. Okay. I can actually link specific episodes that discuss multifam and what you need to be and how you prepare yourself to get into it. We do like I said, every month we do a brunch, the Saturday brunch.
So your brunch there.
And that's pretty much a 20-minute segment of the hot topic of the month. Okay. But then it's going to be Q&A. Okay. Right. And I love Q&A.
And you're focusing on commercial multifamily on that one.
Yeah. So we're live. Yeah. And we just do any questions you have, throw them out there and we'll answer them. Right. Rapid. So you can hop on there as well. Big announcement. I'm starting my own podcast.
Yeah. That's what you were mentioning, right?
Yeah. So it's in the works. I have one episode booked. We're going to film it later this month. Okay. But that is going to be, commercial real estate investing. Okay. And adjacent, wherever that goes.
Yeah, so that'll be a really great resource to people kind of wanting to focus in on this. I'm sure you get a few more investors focused on that.
And with that one, like as it goes down the road, like I do have kind of a roadmap for it. And as it goes down the road, I want it to be a more of a free topic kind of podcast, but about real estate. But when we start, I want to do the first 3-4 months of how to prepare yourself to buy commercial real estate.
Yeah. Just, bridging the knowledge gaps, I think is critical so that everyone's on the same page when you're looking for stuff and finding properties. And I think it just helps to be prepared. So yeah, that's good. That's what I was driving at that, because commercial is so different. I know I've talked about it a bunch on this show, but it's not our main focus. Like, we get into it, of course, but it's always nice to niche in. Okay. Anyways, Jake, thanks for making the trip over across the office.
Yeah, thank you.
And it's always great talking to you. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Please make sure to share this episode far and wide. Help it help more people. I really appreciate you tuning in. Thanks. I'll see you on the next one.